This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, Andre Brisson.
Today, I have Mr. Warren Barry. He is the founder of Instinctive Solutions. He is the host of the Better the Pondcast. He's the creator of the Flying V formation analogy of individuals, teams, and organizations, which he refers to as goose, flock, and the pond. You might remember his voice as he was in episode 49 where we discussed rule breakers, and it was a great conversation. And I want to welcome Warren here because we want to talk about mental energy. How are you doing, Warren?
Today, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. And thanks again, Andre, for having me back on your podcast. It's just fantastic to have these conversations and to be able to help out your listeners.
Well, you do bring something to the table. As much as we joke that you're useless, I do enjoy conversations because it does go deep, intellectual, and you're a very smart guy. And what we want to talk about here today is mental energy management. And you've got a keen interest on this because when I first learned about Kathy Kolbe's time and energy concept about, everyone runs out of time and energy, but energy can be renewed. And mental energy has always been an interest to me for a long time. And I didn't understand why till we had the concept with Kathy Kolbe. And when I got diagnosed with ADHD, all the systems and processes I created was all about managing my mental energy and be efficient. And I never, and I think a lot of ADHD management has to do more. The more I'm thinking about this, the more I'm figuring things out. We got to conserve our mental energy because that's what actually causes our emotional dysregulations when we have no more energy in the tank, our mental brain energy. If we have to focus, we are burning up energy like a bad car. Your carburetor is not set properly. You're burning more fuel than you actually need. And it's very important. And you've got some ideas around this. And I just want to have a good conversation about that. And what do you bring to the table about this concept? Like, why is mental energy important for you?
Well, Andre, of course, have our many conversations. And when you said that I'm a really smart guy, I'm not sure if you confused me with somebody else. But anyway, no, it's as we've had our conversations, you have actually really inspired me to actually think about this in a lot of great depth. And when it comes to two pieces, one, the mental energy piece, and then the emotional regulation that comes along with it, I think is absolutely fascinating. And so just, a quick story one of the things, I'm so interested in because it was my own experience of, using my mental energy in what we call fact finders. So how much I gather and share information. So I always tell when I'm speaking and talking to organizations, just think of it as battery packs. Mm-hmm. It's just battery packs. No, I believe that God gave us rechargeable batteries. Thank God. But I have this out of a scale of 1 to 10. I have this little bitty 2 in fact finder, and I think this would be an interesting conversation for you and I, because when I went to school, I'm going to go back to when I was a kid, and having to read a textbook, having to show my work, having to write a long essay, having to do all those things. And I remember as a kid really, really struggling. And I thought that I was stupid. Mm-hmm. And I said, I was like, why can't I do this? And the harder I tried, the worse it got.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. And then to the point, even to this day, so I'll go back to as a kid. I remember specifically having those experiences. And then I would backlash, and then I would get into trouble. So I was in trouble a lot. But, even to this day, when I'm doing work and I'm really, and you said it earlier about trying to focus, like I'm to focus. When I'm dialed in and I'm really trying to harness that energy, and somebody asked me a question out of the blue, what I've noticed, I will emotionally pull away. Like I'll emotionally backlash. I'll emotionally like, what? Like, you know, and it's funny because it comes out, and then after the fact you realize what happened. And then of course you feel bad and guilty and all those things that go along with it.
Right. So along those lines, that's where like with the ADHD brain, we got that inhibition issue, you know, the impulsive reaction and then the emotions being huge. And I've realized the more tired we are, the quicker to respond that way. So if you want to put in the mental energy context, if we had more mental energy to say, whoa, put a little bit of brakes on, then the reaction's a little slower. But if we're burnt out, yeah, it's immediate, just tired. Mentally, exhaustion is different than physical. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that when you're, again, I call it pushing cooked spaghetti uphill.
Right.
Right. And it's, you know, it's not for lack of effort, but it's just not doing what you wanted to do. So yeah, the harder I try and the longer I try to stay there, the more tired I get, the more reactionary I get. So when we come back to the whole aspect of mental energy and understanding what that looks like and how that is, you know, for me, it's one way. For, you know, when fact finder, for me, it's one way, for you it's another. There's no right, there's no wrong, but actually having that self-awareness piece to be able to fully understand it. So, you know, what I learned over time, just in that mental energy bit, is that number one, I do my best work in the morning while I have the energy to do it. So
right, because your energy is renewed.
My energy renewed. My batteries have been recharged. The second piece is that when I'm doing things that take up, I know it's going to take up time, where I have to like either read something, or I'm having to document something, or I'm having to get into the details. Is I've learned I wind sprint my way through it. I'm a great wind sprinter, right? I am not a marathoner by any stretch. So I wind sprint, and then I stop, and then I do something else, let my batteries recharge, and then I'll come back at it again, and let my battery recharge. So it looks, I think from the outside, if I was to actually, you know, get on the other side of my eyeballs and look at myself, it would look almost erratic.
Yeah.
Right. And people are like, how, like, you know, I was laughing, say, well, geez, how have you lived this long?
How can you not work and just sit down and figure it all out now? Well, I can't, dude. Like, that's not how my brain works, and that's not how my mental energy is to be used efficiently.
Exactly.
Right. Like, you want to go along the lines of the fact finder concept. I'm an 8 fact finder. You said you're a 2. I can sit down and just fact find for a long period of time. I want to get as much as I can up front to a certain extent. It's less. So you're going to take more of those sprints. I can sit down for 4 hours. You might do it over a 2-day period in shorter sprints. But in the end, we get the same information.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just doing it in smaller little bite-sized chunks because of that mental energy. You can sit there and spend a whole bunch of time because you have that mental energy. You have it to give. Yeah. And
then you also said a couple of times, you know, you stop, you take a break, and then we get the energy renewed. And I think this is very important. I know I've learned that a lot. You know, the ADHD brain, head down, ass up, off we go, right? We just go till we burn out and completely fatigue out. And that's where, if you want to reflect, listeners, that's when our emotions are actually at our worst. Quick reactions, worse reactions, lose people get upset because, you know, they got a point. We were kind of rude, but we were burnt out. So the way for us to renew the energy, we got to take more breaks, and knowing when to take those breaks. Like in your case, for a fact finder, you know, you got to take more breaks while you're doing that kind of task. While people are more systematic, you can last longer there. But we got to identify and actually take those breaks for self-care and actually kind of like turn our brain off and do something completely different so we can renew that energy, so we can go back with more energy in our tank. Or like you're using the analogy of batteries. You know, we're a self-recharging battery, but if we keep depleting it to the point of near zero, it's always going to be there. But we got to stop, figure out the break. Either, like for me, sometimes I got to physically leave the office for a couple hours, either go to the gym or just sit down and read something that makes no sense, or like nothing work related, just to clear my head. And then it's an energy renewal, like you were saying. So, you know, there's a few tactics that you got to do is to identify that when you're starting to get a little pissy, touchy, irritated. Like Dan Solon says, it's funny when you're tired that all the idiots come out. And the only common denominator is you.
So there's two things I want to say. I want to say about this, and there's one thing. Energy always finds a home.
Ah, interesting.
Energy always finds a home. And so when that energy, so I look at emotion as energy in motion. And so when I'm getting tired or fatigued and all the idiots come out, right? But that energy has to find a home. Energy can never stop, so it's got to move.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as something triggers me, I move that emotion, and again, it happens so quickly. So I want to say that, and then there's another thing I want to say that when I reflected back, and I think this is really interesting for the listeners too, to really start to think about this. When I went to college, I mean, I had to read textbooks. I had to gather information. I went into medicine, so at that time, and so there was a lot of information I had to gather. Mm-hmm. Now, this is way before I actually knew about Kolbe and any of this thing. I didn't know anything about it. But here's what I did is I would actually study for 40 minutes. My brain would shut off. I'd be to the point of, what did I just read? Mm-hmm. I can't. I got nothing. Again, thinking I was stupid. And it'd go so long, I would stop. I would go and I would pick up my guitar. I would play guitar for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. I would come back and study again.
Right.
And I would study for 40 minutes, then pick up my guitar, play my guitar, and go back. So I would do something completely different, that I was actually letting my brain rest and be creative and not have to think.
Yeah.
And let my battery recharge and then come back and do it again.
And for me, I can sit for 5 hours straight and do that. Then I can take it. Then I need a break. That's the difference.
40 minutes was my longest I could go. And
like Don Barton said on the past episode, the best thing we can do is to learn how we learn. And you learned how you learned. Mm-hmm. Because I want to go, yes, we're heavy on the fact finder because it just seems to be, I think it makes a lot more sense to people who are not familiar with Kolbe. But I had an engineering kid. He was an accommodating fact finder. He was right between from me, an 8, and you're 2. And I thought it was just a young punk. I explained everything to him. I'm a detail. I gave it all out because that's the way I want to. And then all of a sudden, the projects weren't going well. He was forgetting stuff. And I started thinking he was an idiot. And then he'd all of a sudden, he glazed over and kind of shake his head. And I kind of looked like he was being a punk ass, a cocky little guy. And I was starting to get upset. Then someone said, wait a minute, I think his fact finder got overblown. I'm like, whoa, let's look at this. So the glaze over was actually, his fact finding was done. And I actually could recollect and go, the glaze over, everything I said after that glaze over, he never retained. Mm. Right. Because the brain was not accepting anymore. It was done. Right. So then I'd say, you know what? Watch for the glaze. Go keep working. Come back when you need more info. And then after that, it was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. We got stuff done efficiently, but you're just watching for those little cues and understanding how everyone works.
And one really interesting point on that, Andre, is that never confuse that for intelligence.
Pay tell. I forget the term, but expand, please.
Pre-tell. So because the fact is that it goes back to the beginning of the podcast. You said I was smart, so I'm going to keep running with that. But because the fact is that I can only go and retain so much information at one time before my battery dies. So I'm taking things in small chunks, and I know a little about a lot.
Yeah.
You know a lot about a little, so you're more of a knowledge expert, whatnot. That's something that I'm. So what happens?
Yeah, that's another Dave conversation. But yeah, keep going. I know where you're going with this.
Okay. So then, therefore, what happens if somebody has all this information, this data, and they're a specialist, and I know little bits about it. Don't ever, just because I know little bits about it doesn't mean I'm not interested in it, but it has nothing to do with my intelligence of whether I know what I'm talking about or not. Right. So when I give you the glossy over version or the bottom line or the summary, because that's what I need to be, it doesn't mean I'm not smart. It means that's how I'm actually problem solving and providing that information. So I just think it's really important, because I've been in rooms where it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, wait a second, right? So if you're an engineer, then you explain to me, then talk to me about surgery, and then we'll have a different conversation, because Right?
Well, the thing is, I don't think I called you smart at the beginning. I said I enjoy our intelligent conversations.
No, you said smart. I'm running with it.
Well, I think I lied there, but no, I know what you mean. I didn't mean smart. It's definitely intelligent because there is a difference. Yeah. There is a difference. And I also think, like, to go with your analogy, I know a lot of specialists, and honestly, you are a specialist in what you do. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of details in it, but you just take it small bits at a time. Mm-hmm. You build upon it. It's almost like you take your bullet points, you do bullet points of bullet points of bullet points, and then you amass a lot of information. You just take it in a different way and then over a different time period. So, and again, I really like that too. There's a difference between intelligence being smart, and definitely you are an intelligent man. And, and I think intelligence too is we apply it and have awareness. That's a big key in my mind. So a lot of what we're talking about here is, it's mental energy management and what I like about this, Warren, is you really brought a lot of different examples of how it looks and how it can be different and shown in different ways. And what I really like is your example about how to renew the energy. And it's true, turning off the brain. And before the listener says, oh, but my brain can never be shut off. You're right. It can't be turned off, but the type of use of our brain can be shut off. So take off from work. You went from studying to not studying. Take it from working to not working. Take it from working thinking to just walking out in the street. And in those things, that's re-energizing. So along the lines too is the conservation of energy law. It can neither be created nor destroyed, still follows here. So as we use more, it depletes. It gets converted into something else. But if we stop, then I guess in a corny fashion, we're absorbing more energy and letting it build back up so we can use it so that our bucket never gets empty. And running it at near zero all the time is taxing, it's tiring, it's frustrating. We're not happy. No one's happy around us. So that's where the self-care, which is very tough for us to accept and do, is we got to take a break for ourselves.
And I think just expanding on what you just said there, Andre, is, something I want your listeners to think about too, as well, is that if I was to summarize it, I would say, that it leads to burnout. Because you're trying and you're doing, and there's certain things that, I always tell people, don't believe everything you think. I think I should sit here and sit at my desk all day because that is what people do. And that's what I'm supposed to do. Yet it's completely inefficient for you as, for different people. But the thing is that an understanding that when you get in that space where you're burning off that energy and you're fighting it, and you're basically now you're in a state of resistance, is that you'll take that same energy and you'll take it home. And people say, well, you can leave it at the door and have all that stuff. And yeah, that is nice, but it's a great in theory, but really, really hard to do. And then the people you love the most when you go home, become basically, and this isn't a guilt trip, but this is reality. It's reality that they're the ones who actually will take the burden of it, because then all you come in and you're complaining about all the things that this didn't work and that didn't work and what a hard day and then you just go on. And energy always finds a home.
Right. And it's just no different than the kids that go into school all day. They come home crusty because their emotional emotional regulation bucket's full. Right. And then it overflows. Right. So I just want to tweak what you just said there. You can leave the energy at work, but you can't bring it home. No, I think the energy goes home. Whatever energy you have left. What you can leave at work is the mindset of work, and leave work at home, but not necessarily the energy. And that's what I've been working on with my ADHD transformation journey program, is how can we make you use your mental energy more efficiently by staying in your lane, doing the stuff that you do well? Because when you're doing stuff you enjoy and you're great at, you're using your energy high efficiency. So you can work all day and not be depleted, and as compared to you working on stuff you don't like. But at the end, the goal is not to make you more successful or more productive. It's to have more energy in the tank when you go home so that your family and friends can enjoy it, and you're not going to be upset or frustrated, especially when you have kids at home, because you leave work from your kids, those kids, to your kids, and they're demanding. And then if you don't have much time to re-energize, and they're going to deplete you even more. So I think that's a very fantastic point.
And one of the things, Andre, is just on that note again, as conversations keep going. But I know there's days when I'm at work personally where I am brainstorming. I'm talking to, like, you and I can sit and we could brainstorm for hours. We could just like throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. Coming up with new ideas and innovations. It's amazing when I get in my days like that, how at the end of the day, I walk home, and I'm like, oh my God, this was fantastic. You'd never believe what happened today. And I got this completely different energy, because that energy, I have a lot of energy there to do that. So I self-fulfilled that. And then I share that with the people around me, which is just, the opposite of what we just spoke of. So I think really keeping in mind there's things that you absolutely love to do. And this comes from internal drive, not just, I like X, but it's that internal draw to something. And then really pay attention to that, and as much as you can dive into it, and then utilize that energy, because again, number one, you're your best self. Number two, everyone else around you gets rewarded.
Right. And the thing is too, is like, yes, you got more energy, you're referring to your quick start, the brainstorming and trying new things. Yeah, you have more of that energy. But if you're brainstorming on something you don't enjoy, you're actually going to deplete that energy quicker. But if you're doing brand new energy, like for your content and for your clients, you're going to burn that energy efficiently. So it seems like you have more, but you're not wasting energy. So you're being efficient, burning of it. So that's why staying in your lane, do what you do best, can make you burn your energy efficiently and still have a lot more at home. But at the same time, if we can take a break before we go home, like, as much as people are crapping on commutes nowadays, when I had a 20, 30 minute commute, or 40 even, it was good for me, because my energy was being replenished. It was a break. I can actually disconnect from work and get ready for home. But now a 5-minute drive, there's no time. And that is actually an energy conversion or an energy regeneration process. So that's also another thing to think about. And then for me, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just because a thought that came in my head, and just thinking about your audience and ADHD entrepreneurs, right? When and we know, how when we're burning that energy efficiently and staying, you talk about staying in your lane, doing what you do best, because I look at it as a Rolex watch in a way, right? So it's perpetual motion, but not thinking that as the entrepreneur, having to do it all yourself. So going out, who are the other who's around you, right? And what do they do best? What's their internal Rolex watch, and really, letting and then aligning that as well. So don't thinking that you need to do it all yourself, or punishing yourself by saying, one of the examples I talk to people that, for myself or you, like creating systems. And say, right. So what happens is a lot of the time is, well, why would I dump my crap on you? Not realizing that there's other people who absolutely love it. They actually, they just thrive in it. And so, but I'll suffer in silence. Right. And now one of the questions I ask entrepreneurs when I go into there is say, well, then would you hire yourself to do that job? No. And they're like, well, hell no. And well, then why are you doing it?
Yeah. And to go along that way. So if you're going to do it all, that means you're doing a lot of stuff you don't enjoy, you don't like. So you're wasting a lot of energy. You're inefficiently using your energy. And guess what? We always default to doing the stuff we don't like first. So by the time, if we're lucky, we have time to do what we want, we actually have no more energy now.
Myself, if I do the stuff I don't want, so eat the frog first, right? And I fight those fires first. By about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got nothing.
Nope.
And then what's interesting is at the point I feel deflated.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The energy's gone. I got nothing. I'm trying, but it's like, I got nothing left. So I've actually created my own problem.
Right. Yeah. By doing what everyone says you should do, is eat the frog. Right. Bingo. And I've converted. I'm an early morning person. A lot to do. There's no distractions, but that's where I like to do my best. My best work has to be done there before it's depleted or the day takes me away. And it's really good. So you learn how you learn, figure out the time you best work, and get the who's to do it, because we can't do it all. And again, when we do everything that we don't like, we're focusing to focus on stuff we don't like. And that's just waste of energy. Right. And I think for us, the goal of the high achieving ADHD entrepreneur is how to structure the day, the tasks, and the interactions to efficiently use mental energy and maintain enough in the tank at the end of the day so we can enjoy the evening with family and others. Right. And what I really liked what you said there, Warren, a few things, like, I'll have to give you credit. 3 good points you made today. It's 2 more than usual. No, I'm just kidding. Energy always finds a home. I really like that. And why is because emotion is energy in motion. I really like that. And it's true. And a lot of society does this. Intelligence is different than smart. And there's this big key thing. And for me, intelligence is also about applying stuff, not just knowing. Right? That's why I say knowledge is not king. Awareness is king or queen. But because awareness is applied knowledge. And I think intelligence is observation and applied smarts. And you can't have it without.
I'm going to throw a number 4 in here.
No, I can only do 3. That's my system.
Throw this for the next one.
Go for
it. Without awareness, you have no choice.
Yeah. Does that come up to you now? Or you've been thinking about that one for a while?
No, it's been that one bruising around in my brain.
Without awareness, there is no choice. Yeah, I like that. There is no choice because it's an automatic response and it's probably based on other people's expectations.
Right.
You know what? I think I'll end on that note. Without awareness, there is no choice. Well, thanks again, Warren. This is not exactly where I thought the conversation was going to go, yet it went a lot better than expected. So I really like these conversations, and I hope the listener that you've got a lot from this. Where can people find you, Warren? Because you're really good at working with teams and how you can better the pond, which is an organization, by taking care of the flock, which is a team, and for each goose of the team members.
Well, thank you. So you can find me at www.instinctivesolutions.ca. So that's my website. That's one place to go. You learn all about ducks and geese. And I actually sort of live on LinkedIn. So under Warren Berry is a good place to find me. Facebook if you want. And email address. So Warren, WARREN, at instinctivesolutions.ca. And if you have questions, thoughts, want to have a conversation, by all means. I love talking to people, and you can put a plug on the podcast too. So that as Andre, you've been on mine, so always looking for guests and fascinating to people to have great conversations with. And
we'll have all that information you just gave you in the show notes, so it's easier to find. And Warren, thanks again. And for you, the listener, how does the mental energy management construct hit you for your ADHD? I'd like to know what you think about it and if it's something that makes sense to you. Thanks for listening. And thanks again, Warren. We'll see you we won't see everyone. You'll listen to us later.
Thank you, Andre.
Take care, everyone.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, rate, and review the show. It helps us get discovered by listeners like you. If you can share this with 2 other people, that'll be greatly appreciated. Please go to our website, tacticalbts.com, to check out the programs we are currently offering, especially the ADHD transformation journey for the high-achieving ADHD entrepreneur. Again, that's the website, tacticalbts.com. Thank you, and talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by Andre Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.